So we're tracking two major stories tonight: the awful events unfolding at that elementary school in Texas and pivotal primary elections in 5 key states. So let's touch on both with Fox News contributor Leslie Marshall and host of The Next Revolution, Steve Hilton. Thank you both for being with us tonight.
Hi, Shannon.
I want to start here
Good to be with you, Shannon.
With Speaker Nancy Pelosi's statement tonight. In part, she says, for too long, some in Congress have offered hollow words after these shootings while opposing all efforts to save lives. It is time for all in Congress to heed the will of the American people and join in enacting the House-passed bipartisan common sense life-saving legislation into law. Steve, where do we go from here?
Well, look, I mean, it's all very well for her to make statements like that, but I think she's guilty of the exact thing she's criticizing others of right at this moment. We're, of course, totally desperate, feeling desperate for the people who've suffered directly, and we all feel the pain because those of us who had children. I mean, it's just so unbearable to think about this. But when you look at the succession of these, in almost every single case, you see, and I think that's becoming apparent now when you look at the actual background of this, what's been going on with this individual, there have been warnings all along the way. People talk about the need for new laws. It seems as if the authorities, whether that's law enforcement or others, in each case didn't implement the existing laws properly. And so there never seems to be any accountability for that. These politicians constantly want to pass new laws. When are we going to actually demand that the people in charge of operating what we have now do it properly? And then secondly, I'd just say with Biden, with those remarks tonight, I mean, it just was really shocking to me how quickly he tried to politicize this situation and talking about this like some kind of bystander. Oh, why can't we do this? Why can't you do something? He's supposed to be the guy who's Mr. Unity, Mr. Empathy. Why don't he do something to bring people together, to try and get something done about this to people that actually recognizes that there are really differing views on the causes of things like this? It's a complicated issue. This is why you're supposed to be, this is the president's job to try and lead on this. Instead of that, he's sort of standing there ranting and yelling and making partisan points. That doesn't help anything.
Well, Leslie, as Brett Baer and I talked about earlier, it's really hard to get anything done in an election year, especially one as heated as this midterm. But is there an opportunity here for the president to say, I'll sit down with anybody who has ideas and let's get something done?
Yes, but I think we also have to be realist, Shannon. I think the president is. I mean, he's been in politics for a very long time, and he knows what it's like coming up against the GOP when it comes to legislation on guns. And that is, sorry, they're in the palm of the NRA. Look what Texas tried to do. And this is where we have the second largest massacre and the deaths of all these little souls today. Just horrific. When we look at the red flag laws, that we even had people like Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who's a huge conservative, and the Governor Abbott himself, who wanted to pass. It couldn't get anywhere. When you try to have any kind of a background check, so you don't have or you can control more so stranger to stranger purchases. I mean, these are just two examples where I would disagree with Steve in the state of Texas and other states in our nation where things could be done. And when you want to talk about unity, Americans are united, regardless of party, overwhelmingly on universal background checks. That's something that should have bipartisan support, but it just doesn't. The issue of guns and gun control is not just a partisan issue, it's an emotional issue, and it just constantly hits a wall.
Yeah, and the shooter tonight, as we continue to note, broke multiple state and federal laws with respect to possession of that gun around, school, murdering people, and all kinds of other things. So I agree with you that there are lots of discussions to be had, including what led up to this and how we can get better at that. We're just about out of time, guys, so I don't think we're going to get to the primaries tonight, but if you could tell me one race that is the most interesting or important to you, if you can give it to me quick, we'll give you both a chance. Steve and then Leslie, quickly.
Look, I'll just make a very quick point, Shannon. People are looking at these races primarily through the lens of, like, is Trump winning or losing? Are his candidates winning? I think the real point here is that the GOP as a whole is implementing the Trump policy agenda. That's winning regardless of who he endorsed or didn't endorse. His ideas have really captured the GOP.
Leslie, quickly.
I would just say quickly that what we're seeing in these races is a division between the Trump and Reagan Republicans. And I think when we look at like Kemp in Georgia, I don't think it's a referendum on Trump. I think a lot has to do with name recognition and how happy people are with incumbents in these states.
And I would say good to see very strong turnout across the country in these primaries. I think that's positive.
Exactly.
Folks, get out and vote. All right, Steve and Leslie, thank you both very much.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you, Shannon.